Well, good evening, and it's a good morning for our friends in the UK. Here in Australia, of course, we've had our day. You're listening to Radio FM 88 Australia, and my co-host, of course, sitting directly right above me, as she would in the Northern Hemisphere, is Andrena Forrest, and she's plucked out of the wilderness another Mr. Toby Negus, and it's a small world, so you're going to learn about how small this world is. I'll pass you on to Andrena.
Well, good morning, everybody, and hello and welcome wherever you are in the world, and if you're listening to the replay. Today, our guest is Toby Negus, who lives in Wells, Somerset, and we talk about a small world. We were just talking before the start of the show, and Toby was at the Healing Festival that we have every year here in Somerset, and I recall his stand, and I remember it was very colourful with cards, there was books, calendars. There was all sorts of different things there, and it was the colours that really drew me. So I purchased some cards for my friend Yvonne in Adelaide for her birthday, and anyway, when her envelope arrived, the cards were gone, but she just had the birthday card. So obviously somebody else must have taken a liking to them along the way. So anyway, I would like to hand over to Toby to share. He's written some, I think, 3 books that he's written, and he's going to talk about his latest book, which is self-published. So I welcome you, Toby, and lovely to have you on the show. Please enlighten us how all this started.
Thank you very much. My name is Toby. Hi, everybody. I've written 2 books, and I'm sort of going to go through the story of each one. And I've got some slides and images to go with it as well. The first book I wrote was about 8 years ago, and I've always been involved in and studied and wished to understand why we do what we do, the cause of things and how things happen. I spent 25 years in a modern-day mystery school, covering all manner of esoteric things: astrology, palmistry, tarot, healing, ancient Egypt, natural laws, hermetic laws, tons of gear, and it was great. But nevertheless, at about sort of 8 years ago, I found myself in a bit of a dark place. I still couldn't maintain a level of self-happiness that I thought was due. And I got kind of pissed off about this. I thought, I've got to sort this out. I've got to work out some kind of plan, some kind of system to try and understand what it means to be a human. Mm-hmm. So I thought, right, I'm going to gather these last sort of 40 years of study and knowledge and try and put it into some kind of form that I could use that was simple, robust, and can handle the job of living on the earth, which is a chaotic thing to try and do. And that was the purpose. And the following images are how I went about the story of it. So the first images are actually of the book. I called the book The Sacred You, How to Be Your Own Savior. But really, I think a title that may be more fitting now is What the Bleep is Going On and How to Sort Your Shit Out. Because that's kind of how it felt. So it was during putting together this book that I actually started to grow my artwork, because the idea of getting a good image and some words together in the same place seemed like a really powerful way to get things across. Okay, so the story begins of trying to look and understand the human situation. The first slide of this shows the world outside of us and the world inside of us. That is, we've got ourself, our inside world of things like awareness, thinking, hope, responsibility, choice, attitude. These are our internal processes. And then we have the stuff outside of us, things like politics, career, pension, sex, birth, gossip, job, fashion, hobbies, a whole whack of stuff. So we got ourselves and we got the world outside. Now, this brings us to the next slide, which is what we're dealing with. So we've got ourselves, our internal world, and then we're dealing with things like thoughts of the future, our childhood, money, relationships, hobbies, washing up. These are the processes that we have to go through. Now that's fair enough, but it gets more complicated, this story of being human. And the next slide says that, okay, we got what we're dealing with, and then we've got what we're doing it with. And we can be doing it with compassion, we can be doing it with stress, we can be doing it with fear, or even happiness, a whole whack of things that we're doing, these bits that we have to do. And this is kind of building a picture of the complexity. And the final part of this is the next slide, which says that, okay, we've got what we're dealing with, and what we're doing it with. And then we got a third component, which is why we're doing it. We may be doing it out of fear. We may be doing it out of love. We may be doing it because we want to give, or we may be doing it because we just want to cope with the day. We've got a motive, what we're doing it with, and the stuff outside of us. And all this lot is a bit like throwing dice. It can seem you would start in a day, you get in a day, you throw the dice, and the numbers come up according to this somewhat chaotic multitude that we as humans seem to cope with. So I thought, okay, this is hard work. Where do I start to try and make sense of this? What faculties have I got? How do they work to cope with this apparent chaotic nature of life? So I thought to myself, okay, Toby, where do I start? Okay, let's start with my awareness. That is a faculty. That is a perception that I have. That is an ability. I've got my awareness. And the next slide is the one of awareness. That is an aspect of me. I've got this ability of awareness. And I thought, fine, that's fair enough. But what influences my awareness? What causes my awareness to change? And my awareness is determined upon the attitude I have at the time. I can walk down the street and become aware of some things some day, other things another day. And what changes what I become aware of is this aspect of attitude. So I've now got two components to deal with. I've got my awareness and the cause of my awareness, which is my attitude. I thought, okay, that's fair enough. But then the question is, what causes my attitude? And it's my state of mind that causes my attitude. So I've now got three things. I've got my state of mind, gives me my attitudes that causes my awareness. So I'm trying to build up these aspects of myself in a simple fashion, because the mind is obviously enormous. But in general speaking, I have a state of mind, produces my attitude that makes my awareness. Okay. The next question was, what makes up my mind? what causes me to be mindful about one thing and not another? And the answer to that one is why I do what I do. I become mindful because of what is important. And that importance is flagged, if you like, by why I do what I do. Whatever reasons are created about what we see and do, the mind becomes driven by that. If we don't care, it doesn't matter. But if we do care, the mind then produces an attitude, which then changes the awareness. So I've now got 4. I've got why I do what I do, producing a state of mind that creates the attitudes that then changes my awareness. There's an interesting saying that I came up with was, the mind doesn't listen to what we're thinking. It listens to why we're thinking it. The 60,000 thoughts we have each day is a mass for the mind to handle. But the mind, underneath all those thoughts, is the reason why we're thinking them. And that reason why flags to the mind what we find important. So then the next big one is, what instigates the why we do what we do? What faculties or powers do we have that cause this to happen? And these are the 2 big ones. These are the thinking and the emotions. And they're 2 separate aspects of ourselves, 2 separate faculties, if you like. The thinking is the circuitry, and the emotions is the power. And these 2 things build why we do what we do. When we think about something, we get feelings because of it. If we're feeling something, our thinking goes down certain roads. So thinking and emotion are entirely interrelated, but they are nevertheless 2 separate faculties of power. I did an interesting practice I do with groups, is to create an affirmation, self-affirmation. The first question of this journey is to ask yourself, how would you like to feel when you think of you?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. It's we don't often ask ourselves that question.
No.
So the first one is, how do you want to feel when you think of you? So you kind of work out and you think, right, you create a feeling that you would like to have when you think of you. And having got that, having sort of created some kind of oomph of feeling that you would like to have when you think of you, then comes the second stage of the operation, which is to ask yourself, how do I need to think about me to allow that feeling to happen?
Mm.
And this is when you create a set of words, a simple set of words, hopefully your own words, of how you need to think about you to allow that feeling to happen. And this is like, using these powers of thinking and emotion specifically to construct for yourself an affirmation. Because the thinking and emotions are huge powers that we have, and they often rattle on, not necessarily within our own control. As I said, we do have someone said 60,000 thoughts a day, and that is a shed load of thinking.
Definitely.
And we have, emotions happen. If we have 60,000 thoughts, we've got to have something like 50,000 emotions each day. They're happening all over the place. But these powers of thinking and emotion really orchestrate so much of who we are. So creating, taking the self-care to say, okay, how do I want to feel when I think of me, is a reasonable question to ask. And then the answer being, well, how do I need to think about me to allow that feeling to happen? Back to this story, this sacred you, how to be your own savior. So the question was, okay, I got my emotions and thinking, but what is the main influence upon my thinking and emotions? And that one, the answer to that is habits. We think the same things about the same things every day. We have same emotions about the same things. So the power of habit is enormous in what we think and what we feel. Now, the habit is not necessarily a bad thing. Without it, I could never get out of bed, tie my shoelaces, drive a car. But the habit is a hungry beast, and it will run on and overrun. So it's important to realize that this is another power, another engine, if you like, another component of us that makes things happen.
And it's a big one, isn't it? Because we are like creatures of habit.
It is enormous. And habit is built on memories. And a child is free because they've got very few memories. And this is why the older we get, the tougher it is, because we're accruing more memories.
Well, you have to go and defrag your hard drive, don't you?
You do got to defrag you definitely. And it is tough work. It really is tough work. It becomes such a powerful thing. There's a great Ho'oponopono exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a Hawaiian shamanic practice. I did some work with it. And he talks about doing work with the inner child. And if you like, the inner child is the part of us that is carrying the memories of our life. The poor sod. It's a shed load of stuff to carry. And because our memories are enormous, and we only live at the conscious plane of our memories. Beneath that is the whole subconscious and unconscious, composed of the thousands and thousands of hours of our life, and it's all in there one way or another. They can do hypnosis and they can prod it, and some memory of some obscure thing that happened 50 years ago in the kitchen can come out as clear as day. So there's all this stuff in there that is held. And this exercise, which is a great one, I highly recommend it. It's a guy called Dr. Len, and he does this exercise where he uses a set of words to heal and clear the memories. And as a process, he does it all the time. He's doing a radio interview and he's doing this process to the camera and the cameraman to clear the memories so that there's freedom again. But the process is a set of 4 words, and the first word is this is addressing the inner you, if you like, addressing this child that is carrying the weight of our memories. And the first expression that you give to this child is, I love you. The second is, I'm sorry for having to carry this weight of memories. And the third one is, please forgive me. And the final one is, thank you. So it's, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I use it a lot of myself. It's it's a great healing when life feels shit, or when I feel shit with life.
Yeah, I must admit, like, there's times in the middle of the night when I wake up and something might be on my mind, and so I just go, I'm just going through the chant over and over again till I drift off to sleep. But yeah, like you say, it's a great one to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Very powerful.
and it's in those times when we are immensely troubled, which is the kind of the memories bubbling up, we need to address that part of us that is in distress,
Yeah.
that needs love, if you like. It needs to be acknowledged, and asking it to let go of the memories that cause the pain. Yeah, no, it's great stuff.
Yeah, powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, back to this the storyline here. So we got these ones here, and these faculties, the next slide shows that they can happen in an instant. Our awareness can kick in whenever I see a habit I always think of, and then the emotions it makes me feel because of what it means for me. So, in a second, we can go through a flash of all these components happening upon us. And they are interwoven. So this is what I came up with. And the final slide of this book is the lot. And I reckon, okay, in simple, usable fashion, these are my main players, if you like. And there is one more popped in there because I think it's a very important part, and that is intuition. And it deserves a place in there because it is an important part of life, important faculty of understanding. And I call these the heroes and the villains because sometimes they give and sometimes they take away from the life that we want. But I believe that they are fundamentally faculties, energies that we have at our control. Although, yes, they are often out of control, but they're nevertheless servants. They are God-given servants, if you like, but they can only serve us according to the training that we have given them. I believe very seriously that ultimately we are responsible for our life, and it is us and us alone that may choose what we will and will not do. We can blame other people for causing us to feel things, or we can blame this or blame that. But the truth is, fundamentally, we are our own savior, and these are the components that we have available to ourselves to orchestrate, to manage, to sort the life we want out. And this was the kind of culmination of trying to put together a useful picture for myself, a simple picture that I could then use to manage my life with. And I agree with it after all these years still. I think it's pretty cool. But I think there is one question missing from this. Is what are these parts of ourselves there to serve? They are servants. I am not my emotions, although my emotions are a part of me. I'm not my thinking, although my thinking is a part of me. They're servants of our life, but what are they there to serve? Because that missing question is what caused the next book. And an introduction to that is in the next slide. And the book I wrote was called The heart knows what the mind cannot see. And I'm fully convinced that the heart is really underestimated in its power and its purpose. I think the meaning of life is in our mind, and why we do what we do is put it there. But I think the purpose of life is in our heart, and I believe we've known it all along. There was a lady who worked in palliative care, and she worked with dying people. Pretty tough job. And she decided to ask these dying people, what do you regret about life, most about your life? And that's a pretty heavy thing to ask somebody who's on their deathbed.
Definitely.
You're not going to get a shallow answer. You're not going to get some kind of casual response to that question. And she wrote a book that became quite famous called The Top 5 Regrets of Dying People. And the top regret was that they wished they'd been more true to themselves. And I found that really quite sobering, slightly frightening. I really don't want to get to the end of my life and think, "Oh shit."
I do too.
But the question is, where do we go in ourselves to find that truth that we would not wish to be without? And the answer is the heart. Whatever it is, whatever that meaning is, it ain't a head thing. It belongs to the heart. It comes from the heart. It is of the heart. And we live in a very head-based culture. People who are good at thinking and reasoning and sorting things out, they get paid lots of money. If you can't do the head stuff, you just don't get on in the world. So the 60,000 thoughts we have each day makes the head the master and the heart its servant. But this is really the wrong way round. It should be that the heart is the master and the head is the servant. The heart says, "This is my loves of life," and the head says, "Great, I'll sort it for you." Okay.
So heart is the master, and what's the other one?
Say again?
Heart is the master.
The heart should be the master and the head its servant.
It's all about following your heart, isn't it? It's that expression, follow your heart. Your heart knows best.
It is always it's the heart where we go to when we want to know what is really important. When the shit hits the fan, when we're at the rock bottom, it'll be our heart that we sought to find an answer. All great movements, all great art, all great creativity, all the wonders of the world have been created with the heart. The head is great at getting places, but it's not so good at being there. So the head is a great organizer. I'll sort this out, go there, do that, do this. But being there, the head gets twitchy. The head gets bored. But the heart is great at being there. If you're in a moment in a sunset a sunrise in nature with someone you love, doing what you love. There's a stillness and there's a power in that. And I wish to convince you that the heart is more than I ever realized. I was a great head person, very good at mechanics, understanding, esoteric knowledge, all this brilliant stuff. But I was never really kind of a deep heart person. But I'm a convert, and there's nothing worse than a convert. Because I can't see it. I do a lot of talking with people, and people of high intelligence, and I've asked them. I said, "Look, can you tell me any other thing that has the answer except the heart?" If you want a great life, where would you go to find it? It'd be the heart. If you want to know the deeper truth of something, the heart has the ability of perception. You could perhaps call it the deep heart, but it's not a head thing. It's if you're in a moment of grace, if you're in a moment of love, what is perceiving the greatness of life is not the head, it's the heart. And I believe the heart is a faculty in its own right, and a powerful one at that.
Well, we've seen that with NLP, haven't we? Neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
Do I think or do I feel? I mean, thinking's taking you into the head space, and feeling is dropping you into your heart space, or even into your stomach, in the pit of your stomach.
Yes. Yeah. There's a huge site called Heart Math, and they've done buckets of research into the power of the heart. The electromagnetic range of the heart is far greater than the head.
Yeah.
Ancient Egypt, they thought that the seat of intelligence was in the heart. And, that's a culture that's pretty heavy in their abilities and knowledge, and especially their spiritual development stuff. And they reckon the heart was the seat of intelligence.
So what's number 2 in the top 5 regrets?
I can't. Oh, there was things like, I wish I didn't work so hard. But they're kind of. It's a good book. It's a good book. Right. Okay. We'll just check there's anything.
Because I know in your reading some of your book is you've got the illustrations, and there's places to do exercises. You sort of read a chapter, and then you write, you read what you've said, and then you write your own answers.
Yeah, I put at the end of each chapter there's a sort of participation pages, so the reader can actually begin or sort of do their own journey within the components of each chapter of the book. And I'm just going to do a few snippets from each chapter here.
Right.
If I wish to get to my heart, I wish to know my heart, I wish to be able to have the freedom that exists and the power that exists in my heart. But there is a shapeshifter in the way of that journey, and that is fear. Of the two forces, fear is opposite to love, and love and fear are two opposite ends of the bar, if you like, two components. They're both powerful. They're both very much into the law of attraction. We attract what we fear as well as we attract what we love. But fear is opposite to love. And the more fear or anxiety and stress I carry, the less I'm able to get to my heart. And it's important to kind of take note of to take healing time from the anxiety and stress and fear of life, because the more we carry, the less we're able to get to the heart.
Mm.
It clouds our journey. It sends us off in really weird places, fear. And it's got to be recognized, because, you know, there's a fear in life, and fear of death, fear of not having enough money, fear of the next door neighbor. We have hundreds of them, and the media certainly helps pump it up too. And unless we acknowledge and let go of fears, we ain't going to be able to have a chance of touching the heart of us at all. So there's a chapter on fear and understanding it and dealing with it and looking after it, because it, in the journey to the heart, is very important. The next slide is on vulnerability and fragility. Because in the journey to heart, we actually have to become vulnerable. Vulnerable to ourselves. That is open. But the thing is, there's another aspect of ourselves, which is fragility. And vulnerability and fragility are two separate things. And it's easy to confuse the two, but they are totally different. Fragility is that I can be hurt or broken. Vulnerability is I'm open. We can't go necessarily out in the world up the high street in our state of vulnerability. But we can have times within ourselves when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable to who we are. And I believe, you know, in the journey to our heart, we have to become vulnerable. You can't take the journey to the heart and be a tough cookie, so to speak. You have to take a softness into that journey. And you've got to let go of the hardness that fear produces. So understanding vulnerability and fragility and the difference between the two is very important. And as it says on that image, within our vulnerability, there is an indomitable strength. There's a huge power in our vulnerability that we just don't realize is there. It's enormous. And we should accept it and, in a way, rejoice in that vulnerability. Again, I'm not saying take your vulnerability up the high street into people you don't know, but certainly with yourself, and if you can, with other people that you trust and love. So that's very important. The next slide is, or the next chapter, little notion of it, is the idea of knowing the heart. Now, I do a practical in groups, which is to take a bit of paper, A4, put it horizontal, draw a line right across the middle of it, and put it in sections for the years of life. So it might be 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. So you've got a timeline, and you create a timeline bit of paper. And you put now at the end and birth at the other end. And this is an opportunity to look back into our lives and to find out what we love. I believe that the loves we have are quite unique. Love itself is universal and powerful for sure, but our own loves are our unique expression. And knowing what our loves are, I mean, I love art, I now love writing and things like this, and I've got my loves, and I look back through that timeline and I can see, yeah, I had them when I was 12 and when I was 18 and when I was 32. So the exercise is to look back through your life and find out what it is that you love. What was it that caught your love when you were 5, when you were 12, when you were 18, when you were 32? And I would not be surprised if there is a storyline in there, if there is a similarity of flavors. Because being true to yourself, as I said, that truth of ourselves can only come from our heart. And its signature and its color is created from the loves we have of life. And they are gorgeously unique. No two people have the same loves. They may both love jazz, but they'll have their own flavor of jazz. They may love cooking, they may love gardening, but they'll all have their own flavors. And these loves that we have are what give us freedom. When we do what we do, when we do what we love, by God, we feel good about it. It's a huge healing. It brings a smile to the face. It makes our energy glow. It makes our aura expand. And the mind can travel in journeys that it couldn't do without the power of love. So knowing the heart, knowing what we love, and trying finding ways to bring that love to the surface, to give it expression, is really good gear. Highly recommended it. Let's check on the timing. Okay. The next chapter that I'm going to just poke into a bit is learning to love yourself. And this is perhaps the real tricky one. When I was writing this book, I was in a cafe and I was working on this learning to love yourself. What is it? How is it? Why is it? How do you do it? And I decided to ask these bunch of women on the table next to me. And I explained to them I'm writing a book on learning to love yourself. And I asked them what they thought, what they thought about it, learning to love yourself. And there was immediately a bunch of giggles, embarrassment, and shock that subject matter should be brought up. And in the end, they said, "Yeah, well, I need a psychiatrist for that, or that would take years." But it was something that's not obviously talked about openly. This whole idea of learning to love yourself. I think to a certain extent it's more credible now than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But it's still something that's kept under the carpet. The whole idea of do I love myself or don't I love myself is tricky.
Yeah, definitely.
And learning to love yourself is tricky. And the reason why it's tricky is you've got to be soft to the parts of you that make you hard. Because there's parts of us that we don't love, and they're the ones that make us. But to love yourself, you've got to somehow find the strength to be soft to the parts of you that make you hard. But learning to love yourself is important if I want to get to the heart. I can't get to my heart through my own inhospitality, in hostility and grumpiness. So I've got to somehow heal my relationship to myself if I'm ever going to get to the heart. Okay.
And it is working through layer after layer after layer, isn't it? And this is not something we're taught in schools or anything, is it? To love yourself, to put yourself first,
It's really not. In fact, it's considered selfish to look after yourself.
Definitely.
And that's absurd because, at the end of the day, you are all you've got. And to look after yourself is paramount. There are people who, bless them, give to other people without giving to themselves, and they end up with, illnesses because of their lack of self-care. We are the most important person in the world. Without you, the world doesn't exist. And to take that kind of self-significance, but not in a selfish way or egotistical way, is very, very important. But in the end, as it said on the slide, to love yourself simply means it's okay to be you.
And it's giving yourself permission.
Exactly. It's okay to be you. You are okay. You don't need nothing but what you've got. And it's tough because, as you said, there is not much education about learning to love yourself, or even just learning to put up with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is forgiveness. Each time I blame myself for who I'm being, I fracture my consciousness, separating myself into the worthy and the unworthy, the loved and the unloved. I was at a lovely weekend retreat. And, it was called Soul Husbandry, and it was sort of lots of good practicals and things about looking after yourself and looking after your soul of some kind. And after the weekend retreat, I felt I felt into myself, and I realized I had a huge sense of self-forgiveness. And it was beautiful, it was magnificent. And a few days later, I compared the self-forgiveness I had after the course to what I was then carrying. And I realized that I go about my life being unforgiving to myself. And that is frightening. That was very frightening. Because in that state after the weekend, it was magnificent. It was healing, it was fluid, it was expansive, it was self-loving by means I hadn't seen before. But as I said, I realized that I go about my life being unmerciful to myself, if you like. And that's it's important. I think we have to forgive ourselves often.
Definitely.
Because life is shit, and so I think we've got to make it a habit of forgiving ourselves often. And that's like clearing away the memories, if you like. I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. And it just as a general habit of saying, I forgive me, I've done my best, I do my best, and whatever it is, it's okay. So again, these are all processes to try and allow me to get to know and get to this heart aspect. This is what the story's about. Okay. And love. This is the big one. It is, love comes from the heart. And it is the quality that has moved mountains, has created all the magnificent art of the world, poets, creativity, songs, all great works have been produced from this quality. And some people say that being a human is one of learning. The purpose of being human, being born, is learning. And I'm not sure that that's the first principle. I think learning happens, but I think our first purpose, primary aspect, is to release what we love. Learning may happen because of it, but I think our purpose here is to release what we love. And again, to get there, we've got to know our heart. Okay. These are just snippets of the book, and this final one of the chapters, because the book is called The Heart Knows What the Mind Cannot See, and the subtitle is Divining the Divine Self. Dowsing for God, if you like. And the motive of the book really came from this one, which I happened to look in the mirror. I'll read it. I looked in the mirror today and saw more than who I thought I was. Within the eyes was a million years of purpose. I saw the depth of the universe and felt its unfaltering love. It was as if I'd seen the divine within myself, the truth of who we really are, the us that never dies, the custodian of our purpose, the love of our life. Now, I had that vision. I saw that in myself, and it was my eyes that were looking at me, and it was pretty weird. But that's what I believe is within the heart. I think that there is a divine aspect that is held deep within the heart. And therefore, my purpose became to know, to get to, and to release what is in the heart. Okay, the last few slides here are just from some of my artwork and some of the sayings that I have created and put some artwork to. And this one was caused because I realized that when I'm at peace with myself, I feel not alone. And I thought, that's bloody weird. What is it that I'm in company of? Because when I am at peace myself, I do feel in company. And so I thought, yeah, that's an important point, important thing to try and get across. You're never alone when you're at peace with yourself.
That's a powerful statement. And I've just saw Jocelyn, one of our listeners. She's got that poster on the wall.
Cool. I think it is powerful. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
And we need to know that, you know, when we can find ways to be at peace, we do become in company with ourselves. I love it. No, I love that one.
Yeah, no, lovely.
The next one, this was, we can't expect the end of war, until we cease the war within ourselves.
God, that's so true, isn't it?
I think this is profoundly true. And I kind of got this image of this poor Palestinian father with his dead child to try and get it across, because yeah, we want the end of war, and anybody doing practical things to help the end of war is great. But I believe the truth is that we, by our own war within ourselves, generate the energy that that makes war happen. You know, all the unharmony that we carry. This is energy that is aggressive, that is contradictory. This is challenging. This is making lesser or greater or separating things out. Is the very energy that war feeds on. And I believe this profoundly, and I believe it deeply true. And that's why I did that image. Okay, the next one. This was created because I realized that when I am perceiving great things, it is often when I'm in the gentle part of myself. And when I'm in my hard mind, my vision and ability to perceive is really curtailed. And I think this, you know, it says the gentle threads that hold the meaning of life cannot be perceived by the hard mind. And I believe this is profoundly true. I think when we're in that soft, if you like, vulnerable, loving state, my God, our perception goes everywhere. We can feel and see things that the hard mind just can't get at. So that's what caused that one to happen. And the next one is one of the first ones I did, my dear old lion. Be not timid with your love, for no great life ever happens without it. And yeah, we do need courage to express, to be our loves, to put them out there, to allow them to happen. But if we don't, ain't nothing going to happen. We'll end up like that person that regrets that they weren't true to themselves on a deathbed, saying, I wish I'd been true to myself. That truth that we wish to have comes from the heart and from what we love. Yeah, I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I did what I loved more. So this is a reminder to me that to be not timid with my loves, because ain't nothing going to happen without it.
You become Wizard of Oz, don't you? You become Dorothy with the red shoes and walking down the yellow brick road to Kansas.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. The next one is talk gently to yourself about what you truly care about, so you will know who you really are. And I realize that I often talk at myself, but I don't often talk to myself. And I thought, that's profound, that's important. But when I do talk to myself as a companion, as a friend, I'm embracing the whole of me. I'm unifying the whole of me. And it's important to talk to yourself about what you care about, so you will know who you really are. And I thought this was a good message.
Well, it's just like having a board meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all definitely. Next one. This is to do with an image I created to try and show that we live on a living timeline that extends into the past and into the future. Being given a profound ability to discern our future and to give it meaning and to create its picture. We can create from ourselves the future that we have by our mind. And we can also draw from our past anything we want to use in our now to create our future. And I thought that's a heavenly picture of what it means to be human. Again, this is taking these faculties, taking these powers that we have and using them. Okay, we've only got a few minutes left.
That's a nice one.
That's yes, the green angel, I call it. I can't remember where I got told that the angel of hope was green. There's a lovely story about this man in no man's land, wounded soldier trying to crawl back to his lines, heavily hurt. And the angel of hope appears in front of him and appears in the form of his family. And I thought, wow, that's moving.
Yeah.
Nice story.
Yeah, beautiful colours.
Yeah, very nice one. We see what we are and we are what we see. This is to do with awareness. And how we see the world is a reflection of how we see ourselves. And it's, the world is a mirror to how we see it. Two people can be in the same place and each can see a different world. And the next one is, I call the pyre. This is from a time of letting go. With the brave of me shall I build a fire, and I shall give to the pyre all the memories of who I am, all that I have been, and all the stories of what was and what was not. I shall grieve no tears to dampen the fire, but I shall stoke it more with all that I am and all that I shall be, so I may go home again and breathe the impossible once more. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Is that true?
No, you can. We vary.
Okay.
So no worries.
I've got an extract I'd like to read before we finish.
Okay.
I've got one more slide. Trust. Yeah, this says trust that there is a part of you that loves you dearly, and trust that when you are at peace with yourself, you'll know that you're not alone. And this whole idea of trust, when we're in a nice place, when we're with God or within what we love, it's easy to trust because you're in it.
Mm.
It's when we fall out, when we are struggling up a mountain, when we're in a hole, it's those times that it's difficult to trust. And so this image was done to remind myself that there is to have a trust in myself, because I know I felt it at times of greatness, and it's to remind me in my times of not so greatness that trust in yourself is good. And so I took that word and tried to create some colors to give it some kind of life.
And it is quite amazing that you can actually meet people and instinctively, intuitively within nanoseconds that you can trust them.
Yeah, they've got that kind of aura about them.
So I love your colours in your artwork. So I love all your colours in your artwork. Was this were you a natural at school in art?
No. I did some art when I was about 20, and it was apparently quite good. But it was when I was doing the Sacred You book that I illustrated it with colour, and that just turned me on. And I love the idea of trying to get the energy across in the colours.
Yeah,
what energy is trust, and how can you express that sense of trust? And so colours, I love it. They're really good. I'd like to finish with a little reading, if I may.
Right.
This is what's the name of your show again?
Dreaming the New Dream.
This is to do with dreaming the new dream. Okay, it's an extract from the book, and it is to do with dreaming the new dream for me. Once upon a time, before time had been created, we did not know a tomorrow or a yesterday. We lived as children within the maternal realm of Mother Earth. She fed and nurtured us as we grew to know the wonders of life. We did not know pain or strife, for all was under the kind eye of the parental Father, who gave permission of what could and could not be. We lived within an atmosphere where all was known, and our thoughts and feelings were guided by parental love. It was a place where what we thought came about. What came about was held in place. We did not forget what we loved, for it was what we lived. It was easy. There was no distance between the power of cause and its earthly creation. This was a heaven on earth. But time was soon approaching when we would come of age. We would leave the given ease, and we would create our own meaning of life and become conscious. This would not be easy, for the light that gave us life would no longer be visible. It would seem as if a great darkness had befallen us, and we were alone and without kinship. Of course, this would not be true, but we would nevertheless face a dire journey without the comfort of a known path. But it had to be. We had become restless in a world of everything. We sought a different world, a place where we could learn another meaning of ourselves. So it was granted, and the grace and power that had been given to nurture our young lives was slowly withdrawn. What was would become but a memory, and its truth was settled into the deep heart of ourselves. Over time, this would become hidden by the calamity of life, its truth but a forgotten dream. For now we entered a strange and foreboding place. It would seem as if we had been forsaken, abandoned to an endless winter. bereft of light and warmth. We were no longer in love. We had to create it. So we did. Day after day, we struggled to bring the light and the warmth. And no sooner had we created it, it would then dissolve, be washed away by the torrent of life of this new world. So in the cold light of each morning, we would begin again. This temporary nature of things was new to us. For in the world before time, what we created never left us. It was an endless act of love. But now our feelings of life were no longer stable. They changed from moment to moment. It was as if we were born again and had to learn to breathe, decide for ourselves what should and should not be. And we did. We made millions of decisions over thousands of years and created 1,000 paths from our hearts, dewdrops of life squeezed out between the powers of light and dark. As time grew old, it began to loosen its grip on the mind of man. The veil of separation started to lift, and our sense of life began to change. We felt the edges of the finite world and sensed a world beyond what we thought was real. This was no easy time, for although we longed to be reunited with the heaven held in our hearts, we had become accustomed to the craggy world of our disbelief. It was at least known, and because of that, secure. But it was too late to go back. It was, after all, our choice to remake ourselves. And we now stood at the dawn of its achievement. We'd done enough to allow its call to pull us forward, and done enough to know of our inevitable arrival.
Powerful.
Yeah, that's really caught me. I felt that one when I wrote it.
Right.
I was in a kind of final little story. I was in a grove of trees, sitting in a grove of trees, and I was looking at the trees, and I was thinking, well, I was feeling them. I thought, what are they? How are they? And I suddenly felt the interconnectivity of all the trees. And I thought, blimey, they are in love with being the tree that they are.
Mm.
They don't want to be a daffodil or a
Yeah.
and I thought nature is in love, but we the humans have a different story. We have to make love. We have to create it. And this is like the gift and the curse of being a human. We're not a tree that is rooted in what it is. It cannot be anything else, and it is just in love.
Mm.
We have to, each day we start again. We summon ourselves towards what we love. We look to create what we love. We try, we struggle. And I think that, this creation of love that happens through human is profound. I think the gods love it.
Mm.
I think it's more than we realize. The struggles to give a smile to someone in the street instead of a grumpy face. That small act is enormous. I think we sometimes underestimate the power of the simple things in that respect.
Mm. Definitely.
Mm.
And it is the simple things that make a difference, eh?
Yep.
Very much so. Very much so. And I suppose it's the same with the simple things to ourselves.
Mm.
We don't need profound understandings. We just need a little bit of good care.
Self-care.
Self-care, good bit of self-care.
Very.
And it's interesting because within the pandemic, of all the things in the pandemic, one set of words came up, which was kind of augmented human consciousness a bit. And that was the words "be kind." Suddenly, the people were saying "be kind," and I thought, "Wow, I haven't really heard that as a sort of a social
No.
expression."
Mm.
Hey, it's really profound, Toby, is moving from your headspace into your heart space. And tonight we've gone through your PowerPoint, and it's been more of a story that you've been articulating, which requires right brain, left brain to articulate your feeling journey. It's quite a contrast, isn't it, to be able to write all this stuff down, draw photos and all that stuff, which requires the head space, the brain to do it, and then to articulate through a show like this or at a workshop. How do you actually get into that emotional body, that heart space? To, I mean, sometimes, you know, the guy like Burkhart does his talking, but he leaves such a large pregnant pauses and gaps in that, so people reflect on what he's thinking. As, you know, it's a really difficult perspective, isn't it, to actually reveal your journey and how do you express it? It's the contradiction in terms, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I agree.
But I think the picture tells 1,000 words, isn't it? So
Yeah.
the imagery. I mean, I have to say I'm more of a Mozart. What do you call it? Mozart for bloody music, and a Monet and that for art. But when it comes to Picasso, that impressionist stuff just doesn't do it for me. I really want to those amazing works for Michelangelo or any of the maybe famous painters who have created that imagery. I mean, as a photographer, I mean, you see the photo, you see the image, and then you can take it and you know that you're using Fibonacci and the golden mean in order to take the photo, and then you know, we're lucky. But those artists, I mean, they've had to see that and then hold that in their mind's eye to be able to paint that picture, but also to try and get the colours and mix colours and get that plachette to actually bring it to life. I mean, there's some really amazing works of art there when it comes to bringing that to life for people to be able to visualize and then drop into their heart space to feel it, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's, you know, it can't be, you can't do the journey unless you've got some kind of power of love about it. You know, if you have, you know, if I see a picture and I think, wow, I'd really like to do that, I get a love for it, but I've then got to go into the mechanics of trying to manifest it, to try and express it, to try and put the pieces together. So we need the head stuff. It's just, we don't want it to go wild. The head gets in the way. We need to respect the other part of ourselves as well. But definitely.
Fascinating. Well, it's been really lovely listening to you and sharing your journey in the words and the pictures. And like you say, with the spaces in between, it's always good. You know, you've got that space to allow what needs to come in or go out before you move on to the next bit. So it's like you're clearing as you're going along, isn't it? It's like just allowing. But no, it's been fascinating. So thank you very much for sharing.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go to the healing weekend, isn't it? Anyway, all right. Thank you very much, you guys. So obviously it's 8:15 here on a Thursday night, and obviously it's 10:15. You got the whole day in front of you. You can have your brunch and get on with it. Yeah. All right. Love your work. Thanks very much.